welcome. Thank you for listening. Thank you for downloading. And you can follow us at @clockand_talk on Twitter. Each and every week I'm joined by Tony and Schwinn. But full disclosure this week, I haven't actually caught the game this week because I've been highly fucking entertaining weekend, drinking plenty of alcohol. But anyway, we'll talk to Tony and Schwinn and I'll get their takes on the game and we'll go from there. How are you, Tony?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. It's a good job me and Schwinn are a lot more prepared than you, because if we came on and went, oh yeah, we didn't watch the game either, we was on the piss, it'd be a pretty shit podcast. I'm not saying it's good anyway, but it'd be terrible if none of us had seen the game.
It'd be fucking absolutely shit house. Schwinn, how are you, buddy?
I'm doing very well, and just so that our listeners know, it's not just the one game Tez hasn't watched, it's both the games, even Karabakh, so I'm not entirely sure whether he's an Arsenal fan at this point.
Look, I had a very good weekend. Okay, it was. I had to get the priorities right, buddy.
Wow, we win 5-1, and that's what you say.
I apologise for my voice too, because alcohol and cigarettes does that to you. So, okay, let's get into it, boys. Look, you're going to entertain me because I've got nothing. I caught some match highlights today, and look, I went to watch the game. I said to you boys, I'm going to watch the game, but Optus let me down because for some reason over here in Australia they fuck up once a week on one game a week, and this week it happened to be Arsenal Fulham. So all I could watch was some highlights, and I don't even think it was extended highlights by sounds of it. So Tony, line up, mate, because I had a look at that lineup and I was a little bit surprised, to be honest. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I think everyone was. There was no hint of Ozil being injured or out or ill. I mean, I think it's a back spasm that is the official reason, but I'd not heard any rumours. Other people may have, but I'd not heard anything about it until we saw the lineup. Shocked that he was going 4-4-2, but I think from the lineup, no one saw that. I just assumed it would be Mickey 10, one of Iwobi and Welbeck left, and the other one right. So then it was a shock once they actually got out on the pitch and lined up at 4-4-2. Again, even with Socrates not being in, nothing. I think Holding's been pretty good in every game he's played, and he was good again yesterday. But I expected that with Socrates back, that he would come back into the team alongside Mustafi. So there was quite a few surprises, to be honest, in my mind, anyway.
Yep. Schwinn, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, just to add to that, I thought Aubameyang might feature. I mean, he didn't travel, of course, to Karabakh. It was said that he was suffering from an illness. I think he was maybe running the flu or something. I'm not quite sure what was the case there, but he was included in the matchday squad, but only made the bench. And Ramsey as well only made the bench. He, of course, did not travel to Karabakh and was in London or Paris. I don't know, one of the two, somewhere close by to his wife, enough to be able to make it in time to the hospital if a call came, because he's expecting kids at any point. But yeah, otherwise, a very surprising lineup, 4-4-2, as Emery even confirmed at the end of the game, and one that paid dividends, of course. I mean, I tweeted pretty early into the game that our forwards need to have exceptional quality on the day if we're going to, only devote 2 to 3 players in attack. And of course, Mkhitaryan and Iwobi took turns in combining and helping Lacazette and Welbeck out. But a very, very surprising turn of events indeed.
Okay. I'm just going to go through here, boys. So obviously the first goal is Lacazette, 29th minute. Tony, talk me through that one, mate.
Yeah, I mean, Fulham played a weird system. It was a back 3/back 5, but their right wing back, Cyrus Christie, pretty much refused to defend at all times, and it seemed like we could get in down our left whenever we wanted. And the first goal came from Iwobi had the ball wide, Monreal overlapped, and Christie just didn't react to get back in. Monreal put the ball in. Great turn from Lacazette and a very good finish. I think he wrong-footed the keeper. The keeper expected him to go across goal. He slotted it in the near post. Good goal, good finish, good team move. But it was coming the whole time before that. As I said, that gap down their right-hand side was just there the whole time. I don't really know what their manager was thinking with the system he played, because they have wide players up front anyway, in that they play Mitrovic down the middle and Vieto and Schürrle either side of him. So they just sort of seemed all over the place, and they were there for the taking.
So we played a 4-4-2. What were they set up like?
So they had their back 3/5, and then 3 up top, and 2 in the middle in Anguissa and Jean-Michel Seri. But it was weird because, as I said, Sessegnon and Cyrus Christie played so high up that they were sort of like midfielders. It's sort of like a 3-4-3, but they just didn't help the defence out at all. And so many times it was like 3-on-3 at the back. Like we had obviously Welbeck and Lacquer up top, and then whatever one of Iwobi or Mickey joined in, it was just 3-on-3 all the time. And then if you get any form of overlap or any form of movement, he was just getting in behind so easily.
Mm-hmm. Since you brought his name up, and I just want to touch on Gene Siri for a minute, because you watched him live yesterday, obviously, and you probably caught a few of his games throughout the season. You rate him?
I've never been a huge fan anyway, and anyone that's been listening for a year or so, or however long we've been doing this, will know I've said that before. He was anonymous yesterday. I wouldn't say he was bad. As I said, they were massively overrun. They left two centre midfielders on their own. Essentially against, I know it looks like we only played two in a 4-4-2, but Mickey was coming in to get the ball. Lacquer obviously drops deep, as we all know. And where Welbeck was stretching the defence, the gap between their defence and their midfield was huge, because Lacquer's coming one way, Welbeck's going the other, and the gap was just getting bigger and bigger. So I don't want to say Seri was bad. I just want to say he was completely not involved in the game.
Okay, because I only bring his name up because we were obviously linked to him over the summer, and as well as Barcelona. So
yeah, he just literally had no impact.
Yeah, okay. Interesting. Now, 44 minute, they score, Schwinn. Shirley?
It was, yes. Cheap giveaway. I mean, to start things off, Nacho, throughout the first half, was pressured a lot. I think that was a cultivated effort from their side to press Granit, who actually did pretty well to bypass their press. By the end of the first half, he was very calm in midfield and someone who just kept taking things over despite being pressured. Torreira helped there as well, but I digress. Nacho was another person that they really hampered off of as soon as he got the ball. It was like they triggered the press as soon as he received it, and at the end of the first half, no one had lost the possession more often than Nacho did. I think it was 13 times or something. But in the build-up to their goal, again, Nacho gets the ball. I think he tried to find Welbeck. I'm not quite sure if he was trying to go long or was trying to find him through, just a grounded pass. But he ended up giving the ball away. And I think it was Anguissa who intercepted the pass and then quickly found Vieto. And with Nacho Monreal out of position a bit, Holding either had the thought to bite and try and press Vieto, which is I think what he went for, and left a gap open for Schürrle to get in behind. Very good finish. I think Leno, for the half he had, that's naturally down to him to try and save that. Schürrle did a very good, had a very good attempt there and chipped the goalkeeper very successfully. Annoying that we conceded right at the end of the first half, where we did well to go forward initially through that Lacazette goal. But the way we started the second half and went on to finish, I don't think a lot of us are going to complain about that goal.
Just and I'm just looking through, obviously, and like I said, I caught the highlights. But at half time, what was your feeling?
I was comfortable. I mean, very early on, when I tweeted about the 4-4-2, Hakon Larsen, who's of course a very avid listener, you could sense the frustration from his replies there. And all I kept telling him was that the way and the intensity with which they were pressing, there's no way they're going to be able to carry forward with that. At some point, they're going to be knackered. And if there's one thing that we've seen so far this season is that we've always performed better in the second half and managed our energies very well to capitalize on tired defenses. So I was optimistic that we'll be able to carry on and make the most of our chances later on. It was just if we'll be able to maintain this scoreline and not concede more early in the second half, which of course we didn't. So I wasn't too worried. I was happy to see that we had options on the bench as well who could come and impact the game, and that's exactly what we did.
Same question you, Tony, but also, obviously around the ground, how was the fans feeling? How were you feeling at half time?
I mean, personally, and I think a lot of the people around me, we was more agitated because the only two threats that they had in the first half was a mistake by, I'm not sure whether to blame Bellerin or Xhaka or both, with a misplaced pass and it deflected and Leno made a good save, and then the goal. So despite all their work, I thought they only really threatened when we made mistakes. And the Monreal one for the goal, we've just seen it so many times before. There's 30 seconds to go to half time. There wasn't really a pass on. Just kick fuck out of it. Like, just get it away. I know we ended up beating Cardiff, but we all moaned about the lack of game management at Cardiff with Xhaka's ball, where there's 30 seconds to go to half time. Just stay safe and go in the lead. And it was sort of like, we wasn't like disappointed, like, oh shit, we're going to lose, but we was all, I guess, frustrated that the lack of game management showed again. And that's not a dig at Emery. It's individual players' fault. You can't blame anyone else but Nacho for that, especially with Danny Welbeck on the pitch. If you hit channel, you know he's going to chase it, and he may not get there, but he's going to aggravate them. The ball's either going to go back to their keeper, or they're going to have a throw on 90 yards away from your goal, and you go into half time 1-0 up. So it was more frustration more than anything else. I think we still pretty much thought we were going to win, but we was all just frustrated at how stupid the goals and not even just the goal, just every chance we conceded came from our mistake. So it looks like, this team can't break us down, but we're giving them chances.
Just frustrating.
Yeah.
That didn't take long. Lacazette, he got another one. 49th minute assist by Danny Welbeck. Explain that one.
Long ball. It was a bit scrappy, and then Torreira, I think it was, put it up in the air. Danny won the header, and Lacazette let it spin without taking a touch, and then a very good finish in the bottom corner from distance. As stupid as it sounds, I sometimes think we're at our best when we just not go, like, I'm not talking Stoke football, but when we're in trouble, just play long to Danny and let him chase it into the channels and let him win the flick-ons. And we obviously spoke about that being our plan B quite a lot last week. And if you look at recent goals, we've got quite a lot from just sort of hitting it up towards Danny and playing off him. And that's where the second goal came from. And look, I'm not taking anything away from Lacazette. It's a world-class finish. Great spin. He had the defender. He felt the defender was on the wrong side, so he let the ball run across him, and a great finish from distance. But I think sometimes people get so caught up in beautiful football and they'll probably count that as beautiful football because it was a great finish and great goal, but it came from a lump ball up in the air to Danny Welbeck.
I'll stick with you for a minute. The 62-minute so Welbeck's got the assist for Lacazette. You know, we've gone up 2-1 by the looks of it. Now, Aubameyang's come on, Welbeck's gone off. Was that a bit of a shock, or because by the sounds of Welbeck didn't have a bad game?
No, Welbeck had a very good game, and there was. It wasn't. I thought it was a wrong player to come off, if I'm honest. But then I suppose if you think you'll want to play 4-4-2 and Aubameyang's going to come on, he's going to go up top. We was looking and thinking, we saw obviously Aubameyang warming up, and we thought maybe it'll be Iwobi, maybe it'd be Mkhitaryan, but you want to get Aubameyang down the middle when you're two up top, so it was the only logical option of who to take off. Probably a bit unfair on Danny, but he got a huge reception when he came off. Probably not better than others because Lacazette was huge when he went off as well, but a lot better reception than you usually get when you come off after 61 or whatever minutes you just said it was. Yeah. So I think everyone there appreciated how well he played and how well he done. But as I said, if you're going two up top and you're bringing on Aubameyang, it's going to have to be one of the strikers that comes off.
Mm-hmm. No, fair call. Schwinn, what do we got here? We go up 3-1 with a Ramsey goal in the 67th minute. Assisted by
what a goal!
Assisted by Aubameyang too.
Yeah, assisted by Aubameyang. I think Ramsey and Aubameyang are the first subs to ever come on and both assist and score in a game in the Premier League, which is quite an interesting stat. But I mean, the build up to that goal is everything we've ever wished for. You know, it's as Emery ball as we could probably imagine before the season started, and the whole build up, all the way from Hector Bellerin recovering the ball. Some beautiful interplay between him, Aaron Ramsey, Lacazette, and then Aaron Ramsey, getting on the ball again and finding Mkhitaryan, who did very well, I think, to find Aubameyang. And the weight of that pass, to give it to him in his stride, was beautiful, I felt. And then Aaron Ramsey doing what he does best, checking his run at the 11th hour. And, that finish is just exquisite. You just don't see a lot of midfielders having that sort of forward instinct to hold that run and finish it the way he did. Just an exquisite goal, special goal, and perhaps the best one of the season yet.
Yeah, okay. Nice. Your thoughts, you like that. Tony, we were talking before the podcast that you were saying it didn't do it justice on TV as opposed to in the ground, that goal.
Yeah. I was so looking forward to watching it back, and I don't think it looks as good on TV. It looks a bit scrappy with like Ramsey taking the touch on his head, and then his header to Mkhitaryan looks a little bit short and scrappy. The ball from Mickey's obviously class, but yeah, it doesn't look as good. But like, to tell you in the ground, like I think probably once Mickey played that ball, everyone, like, because at away games you're always standing up, you don't sit down during the game, but everyone like took a step forward in like anticipation of what they were about to see because the move was that good. And then when Ramsey's flicked it, it's like you could see it was going in the whole time, but it seemed to take an age to get in the net.
Yep.
But it was the way literally everyone was just like, oh my god, and sort of like step forward like as one. It was quality, but yeah, I personally don't think it looks as good on TV as it looked in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe it's just because I was in the moment and it seems better because I was in the moment. I don't know, but
no, I get what you're saying. Now, just the reception with Ramsey after he scored the goal, it was all good because we might as well touch on it now quickly about the contract negotiations and whatnot. They look like they've been stalled, and I've seen some reports during the week that he looks like he might be heading off. People were pleased that he got a goal?
Yeah, all good. I always say this. I think Twitter opinions and match day opinions are always very different. We've seen it before with players. I always said when Jack was getting a load of, not abuse, but not people online weren't his biggest fans, or on Twitter weren't his biggest fans. That was never the case in the ground. And I think this is probably the same with Ramsey. Ramsey got the same reception as he was a few weeks ago when no one knew anything about his contract. Like, nothing's changed in terms of like fans, how they treat him in the ground. But obviously we've seen Twitter be a lot different towards him. So I think sometimes there's a disconnect between Arsenal Twitter and Arsenal in the ground. So yeah, the way Ramsey was received when he came on, when he scored, was exactly the same as it would have been 3 weeks ago when everything was not up in the air about his contract.
Yeah, cool. Oh, no, it's good. Now, he went off Iwobi. He went off and Iwobi came on?
No, Iwobi started.
Iwobi started. Sorry, Ramsey. Oh, so he got that goal pretty much as soon as he come on.
Yeah, I think it was
minute.
like...
That's what I'm reading.
Yeah, it was like his first couple of touches was like, I think all of his first touches were that move, I think.
Yeah, okay. Because the way way I'm reading it, they've got Ramsey goal, gone up 3-1, then they've got Ramsey on, Iwobi off, both on the 67th minute. So, yeah, okay. So that's where that was. They've got that fucking ass about, really. Useless cunts. Make me look like a fucking goose. Okay, keep rolling, Schwinn. Aubameyang, he gets a goal. Assisted by Bellerin in the 79th minute, Schwinn.
Yeah, and in a lot of ways, a symmetrical copy of what happened with Lacazette for his first goal. Again, Mickey involved once again. Very good cross-field pass to find Hector Bellerin in stride, who, for all the hate he gets from me, I thought had a very good game, relatively speaking, of course. Even a cracked goal, I think, early in the first half, which prompted a very good save from Bettinelli, I think, is the Fulham goalkeeper. But he finds Aubameyang, who cushions the ball very well and uses his body and his size to shield the ball and find the back of the net. Superb goal. Really, not a whole lot you can say about that.
And then the last one was another one of Aubameyang, assisted by Ramsey, Tony, and that gets us up to 5-1.
Yeah, I mean, they let him. He played on the shoulder as he did. Ramsey played him through, and he went through one-on-one, and he gets it out of his feet, and it's a great finish. It's one of them. I think it is a great finish, but it's easy to do at 4-1. Them finish. You're not tense at 1-1. It's a bit different. It's quite interesting though. The friend I go with to every game, he's not a big Aubameyang fan, but he said to me like, as soon as he gets that touch out of his feet, he scored. And for me, it's crazy that you can think, I don't really rate him, but you know he's at that level that if he gets a chance, he scores. I think that, but it's right. That's what we're dealing with Aubameyang. You can see that he's maybe not the best player in link-up play and whatnot, but when he gets the chances, like for both of his goals, you just think goal. That there was no doubt in my mind, as my friend said, as soon as he gets the ball out of his feet, you know it's a goal, and you just have no doubt of that.
Yeah.
In a way, it's nice to have that player. As annoying as it is that he's not going to do much at times, other times, as I said, you get them chances and you just think, yep, goal.
Because he's just a clinical finisher, isn't he?
Yeah, as I said, that he literally. I mean, I know you've seen the goal now, but as soon as he gets that ball out of his feet, which is probably the tricky bit to make sure it's not too close to him or too far away, there was no doubt. There was not like, what way is he going to go? Is the keeper going to save it? Is he going to drag it wide? It was just like, oh, goal.
Goal, yeah. No, I agree totally. I don't want to write off Welbeck, but if that was a Welbeck, we'd be all shitting ourselves.
Oh yeah, no, it'd be the exact opposite. And I'm as big a Danny Welbeck fan as you're going to get, I think. But it would be the exact opposite. Danny doesn't go through, and you think goal. You think miss, and I'm more critical of Lacazette than pretty much everyone else. But I don't have that same feeling with Lacazette either. If Lacazette, when Lacazette went through 1-on-1 against Watford, and I said this on the podcast last week, I turned to the guy next to me and said, his touch is bad, he's missed. And then he went and pull it wide. Whereas Aubameyang, I just never have that feeling. I know that he's missed. Of course, he's missed chances. Everyone does. Yeah. But when he has a chance like that, I just never have the feeling he's going to miss.
Yeah. Okay, 2 questions for you to finish off our little recap here. 4-4-2. That's probably Emery's plan for the rest of the season. You like, or it's going to be depending on who we play? You think, Tony?
For me, it has to be dependent on who we play, because the thing is with Fulham, they're not a terrible side, but they let you play. And they also went 2-on-2 in midfield. I think they had that extra body, you wouldn't have got away with that against Watford last week, to be honest. But where Fulham let you play, I don't know. As much as I would love to see Aubameyang and Lacazette up top together, I don't know if we've got the players elsewhere to get away with it.
Okay. So he must have done his homework, Emery.
Well, that's what he's famed for doing. Yeah. That's one of his plus points, so to speak.
Yeah. Man of the match for you?
I'll give it to Lacazette. I was actually sitting in the game at half time, and it was 1-1 and Lacazette scored. And I thought, in terms of what I expect from Lacazette, in terms of his link up and whatnot, I actually didn't think he'd done great. But then I thought, had Aubameyang not played great and scored, I'd say he'd done well, because that's what I expect of Aubameyang. So I think it's unfair to judge them by different characteristics or different traits. So for me, I don't think Lacazette had his best game in terms of what we're used to from him with his link up and hold up play. I don't actually think that was brilliant yesterday. But when he got chances, he scored. And if Aubameyang done that, as I said, I would be going, well, that's what he does. So when Lacazette does that, I also have to give him credit.
Yep. Schwinn, your man of the match?
It's really tough to argue against Lacazette at this point. I mean, to get those 2 goals in the way he did, complete striker's finish, lots of confidence, lots of swagger. So it has to go to him. But I would like to give some shout-outs since we've glossed over some names. I thought Lucas Torreira had a wonderful game. And the Arsenal fans.
Just to cut in, I think that was his best game in an Arsenal shirt, Lucas Torreira.
Yeah, I mean, you could tell by the away fans, serenading him, I think, during the game, after the game, and you could just tell he looked very comfortable and, again, freed up Granit a lot. And for all the hate Mustafi gets, I thought he had a comfortable game, kept Mitrovic, in his pocket for most of the game, a couple of good blocks. And, of course, he does have a couple of brain farts every now and then, especially early in the game when Fulham were pressing us. But, we walked away with giving up some chances but not necessarily conceding. And I thought some of the credit can be given to Mustafi there as well. Granit, again, quietly had a comfortable game. So that's what you want to expect from him week in, week out. And I think we're seeing shades of Granit now being comfortable with this press when the opposition is pressing him because he's got players around him who can help him bypass the press. So all in all, a very comfortable victory, probably our most comprehensive performance under Emery so far.
Okay.
Sorry, Des, just to cut in, because Schwinn just mentioned it, Torreira song, I've seen some debate online whether it's 5'5" or 5 foot high. It is 100%. He comes from Uruguay. He's only 5 foot high. There is no debate. That is the song. I don't know. I've seen so many arguments on Twitter, and I just feel like everyone there knows what they were singing. So I don't see how people are arguing with it. But he comes from Uruguay. He's only 5 foot high. That's the song.
Well, they have an argument about it, will they? Queer cunts.
Yeah, well, I mean, one of our famous accounts, famed accounts on Twitter that sounds like a Japanese car who was watching on a dodgy stream that was 5 minutes behind, was arguing with everyone, telling them that they were wrong and it was 5 foot high and it was also inaccurate because he's actually 5'6". And I'm reading this at half time and I think I'm sitting here singing it. Like, I didn't argue with him because you know it's like. I mean, I'm sitting here singing it and you're telling, and people are saying no, it's 5 foot high, and he's like because it rhymes better. He's like, no, that's also more inaccurate. Like, yeah, I mean, we used to sing Petite, he's blonde, he's quick, his name's a porno flick. It's not fucking accurate.
Some fucking poor, simple cunts out there, isn't there?
But, I mean, it's not only him. That's just one I saw, but there was loads of people online, and I was just like, just for anyone who cares. I mean, I don't overly give a fuck, but for anyone who's listening to this and cares and is wondering, he comes from Uruguay, he's only 5 foot high.
Yep.
Yeah.
Boys, Schwinn, who was the captain?
Granit.
I'm
sure you wanked off to that.
Granit was
learning about.
Did you say Granit was the captain?
I did, yeah.
How come you didn't tell me this earlier?
In all fairness,
what's the highlight?
In all fairness,
you didn't tell me.
He was a brilliant. I don't know how much they showed of it on TV.
Yeah.
He was a brilliant captain.
He always is. Of course, he's going to be a brilliant captain.
In terms of his game, it was neither here nor there. But in terms of his captain, he was actually very good. But he wore the brightest pink boots I've ever seen, which is wholly unacceptable. Like, at no time should Granit Xhaka be wearing luminous pink boots. At no time.
Oh, actually, I've seen them. Yeah, on his Instagram, he showed that.
When you're wearing an armband, even less so. Like, it's not on. Like, no pink boots. Like, black, it's fine. Just black boots.
On a serious note, you think this is, and I don't want to get hung up on the Ramsey situation, but do you think this is Granit as the captain moving forward for the rest of the season because of the Ramsey negotiations?
It will be interesting when Ramsey starts because, I mean, you look so far this season and you could argue that Cech, Ramsey and Ozil have all been ahead of Xhaka in terms of who's going to be captain.
Yep.
None of them started yesterday. So then Granit, we knew was pretty much going to be captain. He's the next in line. It will be interesting to see what happens when Ramsey and, like, if Ozil and Cech are both out and Granit and Ramsey both start, it will be interesting to see if he sticks to what he's done before, which is make Ramsey captain. I think he will, because I think he as in Emery, is completely unbothered by the whole transfer stuff. I mean, we know the difference between a head coach. He's got his squad and he's going to work with it the way he sees best. And if he sees Ramsey in that starting lineup and if he sees Ramsey as the best captain, then he's going to keep doing that. I don't think Emery overly gives a fuck about all this contract stuff.
No, I agree with you. For me, I think he, as you just said, he seems to. I care about managing the team. I don't give a fuck about what goes on in the background. Today he's playing for Arsenal, so I'll use him to the best we can.
Yeah, that's what it comes across to me, and obviously you and people may disagree, but that's what it seems like. So I fully expect. Look, I personally think Xhaka's a better captain, but I expect if they're both playing, that Ramsey will probably still be captain.
Okay. Another quick question for you. We're in 4th position, just ahead of level with Tottenham. Did you think that we were going to be here this time of year now? Schwinn? Or Tony?
No, go on, Schwinn. No, go on, Schwinn.
It's really tough to say. I mean, when you look at these fixtures, you think on paper, you can win the games and rack up the points, but we all know football's not played on paper. I think momentum is something that has really helped us, and this international break has come at a very bad time in that regard. I feel, the team has been picking up pace, and despite heavy rotations, midweek games, traveling, taking squads which are, which have more first team players than usual, we've seen the squad dramatically change since our game against West Ham. I think Emery has done a top job in managing some of these players. If you look at the lineup against West Ham, or Cardiff maybe is a better example of that, and the lineup yesterday, there's a lot of difference there. And of course, some has been because of injury. You can say Mesut Ozil and Aubameyang fit that bracket, but then some have been tactical. And I think yesterday is a very, very good example of fielding out a different 11 based on tactics. I was optimistic and I was hopeful that would be the case, but I'll be honest, I was not expecting us to pick up points right off the bat so quickly. And that's one of the reasons I had us finishing fifth in our preseason podcast, which of course still might happen. But I think Emery and the staff has done a very good job. I think the players have done a very good job so far, particularly the likes of Danny Welbeck, who've been on the fringes of the squad and made a place for themselves in the first 11. And from here on out, I think there's a lot to look forward to. We have a couple of challenging fixtures coming up against Crystal Palace. Liverpool, of course, is going to be a tough test. And, that might give us a better indication of where we're headed. But so far, the squad has done a top job, and I don't think anyone can take anything away from them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well said. Same question to you, Tony. Your thoughts on what Schwinn said, and, did you think we'll be fourth? Neil?
I think Schwinn said a lot of what I would say, that momentum plays a huge part. Being fourth, fifth, whatever it was to be, is probably not the big surprise. I didn't expect to only be 2 points behind the leaders, being Man City and Liverpool at this stage. If you would have said to me we're going into the last weekend of October, which it will be by the time the international break's over, 2 points behind City and Liverpool, I would have said, brilliant, fine. We have had fixtures I'd expect to win, apart from the first two, which are obviously the only ones we didn't. But you never know under a new manager how things are going to click. Things could have gone very, very differently, I think. Our first win was West Ham, and we was really struggling. We could have lost that, and then you don't know how momentum alters itself. But I think with where we are, I'm happy to be there, and as I said, I'm delighted to be. Well, not delighted. I'd prefer to be 3 points ahead of them all, but I'm more than happy to be 2 points behind Liverpool and City at this stage.
Mm-hmm. Hang on, don't fuck. We're not Manchester United fans, eh?
Well, yeah, it could be worse.
It could be real worse. You boys want to do some questions? Because we're not going to do the live callers today, because we've got a heap of questions. So.
Just stuff what you wanted to touch on. Carrier bag.
Yeah, we better. Yep. We'll touch on that one quickly. So, you give us your rundown of that game, mate.
Well, I know Schwinn wants to gloat about one of his predictions, so off you go, mate.
I'm in love. I'm absolutely in love. And I haven't thought about an Arsenal player like that in a long time. Of course, Guendouzi did get his first goal, and that was my bold prediction for the day. But
what was your bold prediction?
That Guendouzi is going to score his first goal in an Arsenal shirt.
Okay, right. I just thought I'd let the listeners know, because you fucking tend to make this shit up as it goes along. So Guendouzi.
Oh yeah, that was
your bold prediction,
that, isn't
it? Yeah.
Yeah, sure. I think the listeners know that it's you who does that more often. But yes, comfortable victory. The game wasn't as comfortable as we thought it would be. I think Karabag were turned for the game. A couple of tricky players in their squad who gave us something to think about in our defensive third. Very, very interesting to see us go three at the back. I was not expecting that one bit, and I'm not entirely sure what prompted that, since we had some options on the bench. Maybe Emery didn't want to start those players, but still I didn't quite expect us to go three at the back. When the lineup came out, I almost thought we would go with a 4-2-3-1 and throw Kolasinac on the as the left mid, left wing, whatever you want to call him. But of course, it seemed to be much simpler than that. Comfortable victory at the end of the day.
How did Kolasinac go, mate?
When he joined the club, Arsene said that he is not a left back, and we always questioned that, since he played left back and got left back of the year playing in the Bundesliga. And everyone, took that comment with a pinch of salt, but I think he's been proven right. His defensive awareness, more than his recovery, is shocking. We know his size, we know he struggles with that a bit in recovering, but how you position yourself has nothing to do with recovery. And even when we were pegged back in our half and we have two backs of four defending, he just doesn't seem to position himself correctly, and which was even more shocking because he had Nacho Monreal covering for him a bit. So I don't think he's going to be someone who we can rely upon as per he is right now. going forward, he's a tank, so he uses his body very well. I mean, from the get-go, he was giving their right back, I think, who was their captain, a lot of trouble because he would just knock the ball ahead and then use his body to get away. And he did have a couple of good crosses into the box, but I don't see us being able to use him as a left back, and which means Nacho is going to have a lot of game time this season.
Yeah, okay. Tony, what was your bold prediction?
Danny Welbeck to be racially abused because you put me on the spot.
That didn't happen.
Well, there's an interesting story here.
Okay.
So I wanted to be right, and Schwinn was gloating in our WhatsApp group during the game saying, "Oh, my bold predictions come true. I'm the greatest, blah, 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 blah." So I'd sold a ticket to someone I know. So I texted them and said, "Can you mutter something unspeakable under your breath about Danny Welbeck?" And he claims to have done it. So I was right. So, yeah. I mean, you may not have heard it on TV, and thank God for that, because, look, as I said, I didn't say it from a horrible place. I don't want Danny Welbeck or anyone to be racially abused. But I wanted to be right. So, yeah, turns out I'm also a genius.
Well, thanks. Since we're all talking about geniuses, I better add my 2 cents, because I'm pretty sure my bold prediction, you boys caught me on a bad day asking me what my bold prediction was. Cause
you asked the question. What do you mean, what you want to bad day?
No, in the WhatsApp group. We there? In the WhatsApp... Fuck, I don't know what that feedback was. In the WhatsApp group, when you boys said to me on Saturday, what was your bold prediction? And my brain weren't thinking real well. But I was actually thinking about it now as I'm looking back, and I'm thinking, I'm pretty sure I said Smith Rowe to score.
Someone commented on Twitter and said what you said. I can't remember what it was, but it was wrong. It wasn't that.
Wasn't Smith Rowe to score, or was it El Neni to score?
I think it was Kolasinac to score, wasn't it?
There you go.
Yes.
Fucking, he's bold and dumb, that was. I said bold prediction, Tez, not fucking dumb prediction. Okay. Did any of us get the score right? 3-0?
You know I didn't.
No, I know you didn't. Schwinn, what'd you have?
I'm not quite sure what I said. I think actually someone commented on our question thread, so let me pull that up. Okay. I said 4-0 and Guendouzi to score, so I only got the one right.
I think I said 3-0 and Smith Rowe to score.
Well, I'm off it.
5 out of 5, boys.
Again, brilliant job by @Rohan Morris, who is the Island Boy Gooner. He tweeted at us and he told us that Tess said 2-0 and Kolasinac to score, and he also mentions both wrong. So top job to Rohan.
I don't trust that Island Boy Gooner. Any bloke who's on a fucking island, I don't trust him. It's probably
I think the island is Australia.
Yeah, he's probably on my island. I was thinking that. He's an Aussie. He's a good bloke. Okay, let's get into some questions. We brought it up. Oh, no, none of us did a bold prediction for the Fulham game, did we?
No.
Because that wasn't
we
on.
doing it.
Okay. Okay, so I've got to... Because we didn't do a couple of... questions. So we didn't do the live callers, but a couple of the boys on Skype have asked a couple of questions. So Maddie, question for Tony: if at all we have to find any particular thing to be improved despite super performance yesterday, what will it be?
Look, I know we're all happy at the moment and we're playing well, but there's still a lot that can be improved on. Let's not kid ourselves into thinking we're playing perfect football. For me, just the general sloppiness. As I said, I can't really remember anything that they created that didn't come from an error from us. And not like a tiny little error like someone got beat by their man, which can happen to anyone. But big errors like Nacho's mistake for the goal. As I said, the Bellerin and Xhaka one, whichever one you want to blame for the Vieto, I think it was, that had the shot that was saved. I don't think that they had anything else. So for me, that would be the main one. Look, as I said, if a team score against you and it's just a good goal and there's no one at fault, you can kind of go, well, we couldn't really do anything about that. But at the moment, all the chances we're giving up are like we're literally giving them the chances. So I think that would be probably the main thing I would want to improve, but there's still lots of improvements to be made.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And Maddie, for Schwinn, do you still stick to your 5th place prediction for Arsenal, or do you think we will be top 4?
Well, thankfully, my prediction has no bearing on where we finish, but I'll stick with my guns just because, things I feel will get worse before they get better. We're still fit as a squad. We're a couple of injuries away from really struggling, particularly at the back, maybe even in midfield. So December, January are very, very tough times during the season, and I hope we'll be fine. But for now, I'll stick with my prediction.
Yeah, Matty, you're asking the wrong bloke, mate. You should have asked me, brother. I said top 4 and we'll be number 4, buddy.
Good God.
I'm the bloke who gets 5 out of 5.
Schwinn, are you still sticking with your Golden Boot winner?
Who was his bloke?
Oh, God.
I remember that one too. you want to change? Give you
I would love to.
Chance.
Is that an
to
option at this moment? I thought we had to stick with what we predicted. Wasn't that the test?
I mean, you do. I just wanted to point out how stupid your prediction was. To be honest.
Oh yeah, it was as left field gets, and I feel like an idiot.
Who was it again? For the new listeners who are listening to this podcast, who was your Golden Boot prediction?
The dog nonce who's earning $350,000 a week.
Alexis Sanchez,
allegedly.
Come on down.
Allegedly, he's a dog nonce.
What a classic. Okay, so Addy, hey guys, really wanted to jump on the podcast after yesterday's win. Hope you're all doing well. Thanks, Addy. I just apologise we didn't take the live callers. We've just got so many questions to get through, and I didn't really want a 3-hour podcast. So you can blame me for this one because I said to the boys, let's just churn through this as quick as we can. So my question, with the team finally starting to understand Unai's philosophy, how far do you think we will go, Tony?
I don't know if this question's long-term or short-term. I still think... I was talking to a friend after the game yesterday, and I was saying that we're probably... I've not checked the odds, but in terms of odds and stuff, we're probably still favourites to miss out on the top 4. I would say the bookies probably have it... So Chelsea, City, Liverpool, Chelsea, Tottenham, I would imagine. And for me, that's still our aim. We are improving. I'm still hesitant to say we've done anything until we start playing the teams where you're not expected to get points, because let's be honest, we all expected to beat Fulham. We all expected to beat most of these other sides. Maybe Everton we thought would be a bit tricky, and it was. But it's difficult to say until we're up against someone that is more competition.
Do you remember, and I think it might have been it might have been the start of this season when we were all talking about predictions and that, and I can't remember the exact games and whatnot, but somebody said even if we lose, if we had lost to all of Chelsea, Man U, Liverpool, City, we still would have finished in 4th position last year. Something like that.
I mean, I don't know. I always say that people put too much focus on big games because there's 10 of them in a year, and if you win the other 30, you're either going to win the league or be damn close to it. So I didn't say exactly what you've just said, but similar lines. But that's something. That's just not an Arsenal thing. That's just a general thing. I think people put too much weight on the big games. I've always said that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's just I remember somebody saying something about it. It might have even been yourself, but no, it was the start of the year. They said, even if we don't win them 10 games, we still would have finished, obviously, in top 4 last season. So, which I thought, well, that's a pretty interesting way to look at it, to be honest. Okay, there's one more from Addy for you, Schwinn. When all our CBs are fit, who starts, as Holding and Socrates have had good starts? So, yeah, who starts?
Yeah, I mean, Look, this is a very good problem for the manager to have. A different way of looking at this is that if one of our starting center backs in Mustafi and Socrates, are unavailable, then we have a ready player who can come in and do a job, which again, speaks a lot towards Holding's ability as well. I think he's been very calm, very mature for his age, and done a good job. Thought he struggled a bit against Karabakh, but that could be because of Lichtsteiner also struggling. And I don't think he's quite suited to the right center back role. And I think that's where the key to this answer is. If you start Holding, then you have to start Socrates as the right center back, and you cannot have Holding on the right. That's what I think, based on what I've seen so far. And usually, the way we play, the right center back is the aggressor, while the left sits back and mops up. Socrates, for all his ability, is not the quickest, and I don't think he's quite well versed with the oppositions of the Premier League. That makes it a bit tricky for him to know when to step out of the line and aggress and press some of the players. And I think that's where Mustafi is a bit underrated, because he understands the opposition and knows the opposition a bit more. Look, we're not the biggest fans of Mustafi on this podcast, but I think he's had a decent start to the season, much better than what we expected from him, because we don't doubt his ability, we doubt his decision-making, and I think that has improved a bit under Unai Emery. I'd be very surprised if we carry on with Holding and bench one of Socrates and Mustafi in the coming weeks, barring injuries, of course. I'd expect us to stick with that, unless we're prompted otherwise.
Okay, one last one, and we'll go around the table with you all. So, Tony Addy says, who will finish top goal scorer, Aubameyang or Lacazette?
For me, Aubameyang, and it's no surprise I've said that, but most people probably disagree.
And Schwinn?
I don't care at all. It really doesn't matter to me. I don't care where it comes from. Look, we have shared the goals from the beginning of the season more than any other team. I think the number was 15 goals amongst 10 scorers. That's the definition of a good team. And Lacazette's celebration yesterday after his first goal really tells you all you need to know about the team's solidarity at the moment. We're enjoying our football. We enjoy being a team. There's a lot of unity. Pretty much every celebration sees players coming together in a huddle and hugging and giving high fives and slapping each other in the head. That's what it's all about. Top scorer and everything else is secondary. Right now, we need to evolve as a football club, and that's on the path we're on right now.
I agree with you.
But while you're on the fence, who's going to score Lacazette or Aubameyang? Not who do you want?
I'll go left field again, and I'll take Granit Xhaka.
No, your fence.
The fucking question.
Lacazette.
Thank you.
Lacazette, get off my back.
I was just going to say, Tony beat me to it. Well, I agree with everything you say there, Schwinn. Who was it, Aubameyang or Lacazette?
It's a tricky one, isn't it?
Nah, Aubameyang for me. I love Aubameyang.
What's the tally so far? Do we know how many each of them
it depends. Well, so this question as well, if we're only counting league, they're both on 4. In all comps, Aubameyang's on 6 and Laka's on 5.
Okay.
So it depends what you're looking at. They're either equal.
If we go all comps, it's probably going to be Lacazette, isn't it?
Well, he's down at the moment.
Well, what did you say? Lacazette was 5.
5 and Aubameyang is 6 in all comps, but they're both on 4 in the league.
Interesting.
Well, in the league, Aubameyang hasn't scored in a game that Lacazette hasn't.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. Cardiff, Everton, and 2 yesterday, and Lacazette scored in all of them games.
And how many goals has Lacazette scored then out of position? So it'd be.
Well, no, Lacazette hasn't played out of position. But what I'm saying, all of their league goals have come in the same game, so you can't even weight them and say one scored against a bigger team, one scored against a smaller team. They're in the same games.
Yeah. Sorry, I meant Aubameyang. So he's been playing the left wing mainly.
Well, he was on the left against Cardiff and Everton when he scored, and he was central yesterday.
Okay. Right, let's get into a few more. So we'll scroll right down the bottom for those of you like Schwinn who want to check out. Kidope. I just got to ask, how did Aubameyang get those ridiculous amount of goals at Dortmund? He almost never wants to back into defenders. What kind of striker never wants to be shoved, pushed? This was right before he got those 2 goals. SMH. Don't know what that fucking says. Tony?
For me, this is just a crazy question because there's many ways to score a goal. Like, there's many different types of striker. You don't always have to be a big, strong man that wants to back into defenders and fight with defenders. If you know that's not your strength, you stay away from them. And look, I am not for a single second comparing Aubameyang to Messi. But Messi doesn't back into defenders either because he knows he's not strong enough. And I know he's not a striker. But yeah, I'm saying you have to suit your playing type. Yeah. And if Aubameyang knows he's not strong enough, it annoys me that he doesn't even try in a lot of these battles, and it does piss me off. But you have to pick your battles. If he knows he's not going to win them, what's the point? His view is, what's the point in wasting energy going into battles that he's going to lose every time? As I said, it annoys me, but I can't believe that anyone would question how he scored goals because he doesn't back into defenders. He scored goals by when he gets a chance, he 9 times out of 10 puts it in the back of the net. He's got very good movement in the box. He always finds space in the box, which is an art in itself. I'm not sure if it's still the same, but I know a couple of weeks ago, the stat was since he's come into the Premier League, the only person that had outscored him was Mohamed Salah. And obviously Salah had the crazy season last year. So to say how's he done it in Germany and make it sound like the German league's so inferior, I personally believe the German league is inferior, to be honest. But I think this question makes it sound like the German league's a pile of shit, and because he's not backing into people here, he's not going to score goals. But as I said, I'm not sure if it's still accurate, but 2 weeks ago, he was the second top scorer in the country since January.
Well, Brad...
And let's be honest, he was playing in a pile of shite team since January because we was focusing on the Europa League.
Yeah, true. Well, Brad's he's mentioned a comment on it as well. Like he's commented on old mate's comment on post. His pace, exceptional movement, good link-up play with phenomenal finishing is how he got his goals in Germany.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so you don't have to be backing into a player all the time. If you got goals for backing into a player, fucking Olivier Giroud would get 300 goals a year. And we all know that didn't happen.
That didn't happen. When you type of touched on this, thoughts on Mustafi and Holding were terrific today. Do you see Mustafi Holding partnership keeping Socrates out of the starting 11 till one of the I don't even know what that word says, drops out of form?
Yeah, I mean, we spoke about this. So in a nutshell, no. Okay. I don't see them carrying on.
I'll give you another one then. Schwinn Madwire 1. Lacazette today. 45 touches, 2 shots, 2 goals, 2 tackles, 1 header, 1 dominant performance. Is it fair to say Lacazette is now our best player and future Arsenal legend?
Wow, future Arsenal legend. That's probably taking it a bit too far, isn't it? I mean, he had a very good game, probably one of his better games in an Arsenal shirt. And, I mean, take nothing away from him. Both those finishes are as instinctual as you would expect from a top-class striker. I think, there's nothing you can take away. But, someone like Aaron Ramsey, who's, supposedly out of the club almost, we're still questioning whether he is an Arsenal legend, despite quite single-handedly winning us 2 FA Cups. So if the legend term is that high on a pedestal that even Aaron Ramsey requires discussion, then Lacazette, of course, has not even scratched the surface yet of maybe even potentially earning that title. I hope he does. I hope he stays at the club for a while and can give us his best. But at the moment, definitely not. Just
enlighten me for a minute. Just give me 3 Arsenal legends in your mind, so just what your benchmark is.
Tony Adams, number 1.
I agree.
Thierry Henry.
Yep.
Can be another one. And I want to be careful since you only said 3 that I don't miss out on someone. Yeah. I mean, I want to go with someone like Patrick Vieira, but I want to erase my mind a bit further back. and think of someone else. Why don't you and Tony give answers while I come up with someone else?
What about you, Tony?
Well, I mean, I don't want to kind of steal Schwinn's answer, but they're casting bronze outside the stadium. Adams, Omri, Bergkamp. There's others, but yeah. I mean, for me, you look outside the stadium and you see three statues. You can't argue with. For me, you can't argue with that.
It's very hard to argue.
I'll also throw in David Rocastle just because of the weight he carries around our club. I mean, it's obviously not as much to do with his performance, which is not to say he was not as good as a player as he's termed in our Arsenal folklore, but there was so much that Rocky meant to the club, even outside the pitch, that you just cannot replicate that.
Okay. Well done, boys. So, where are we? Thoughts, Holding impressed, 50 appearances. Do you think he can kick on, or will he be looking for a big name CB? Tony?
Look, for me, Holding's a very good player. He can improve, but he's already a good player. I don't think we'll be looking to sign anyone. I actually do think we're light on numbers at centre-back, but if he wasn't looking to sign anyone in the summer and let Chambers go, and he obviously would have had an inkling about Mavropanos' injury, then I can't see him doing it after Holding's come in and played well. So for me, I think I don't want to say stuck with Holding, but we're going to be sticking with Holding and maybe not in the team, but in and around the team. I don't think we'll buy anyone. I think there's more problem positions, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't think we'll buy anyone either. Question for Tony. Sandeep says, does your opinion change on Lacazette after the performances he has been having recently?
See, yesterday was what I want to see from Lacazette. So, was it Madwire that asked the previous question and said 46 touches? That's what I want.
Yep.
He usually has a lot more touches, and it's nice and it looks pretty, but it doesn't contribute enough. And it also leaves him in positions where he shouldn't be. Not where he shouldn't be, but where if he's coming and linking up in the centre circle, then he's not in the position to score the goals. We saw his goals yesterday. He was the furthest player forward, I believe, for both goals. The first one was essentially inside the 6-yard box or a yard outside. And the second one, he was ahead of Danny Welbeck when Welbeck had the flick on. That's what I want to see from Lacazette. What annoys me is when Danny or whoever it is has to flick the ball back towards his own goal because Lacazette's deeper than them. And they're the games where he comes out with 60, 70 touches but no real impact. So yesterday, as I said, is what I want to see from Lacazette. I thought he was awful against Watford. A lot of people gave him man of the match and I couldn't believe it. So I don't know about recent performances changed my opinion. I've never doubted he's a good player. He's technically a very good player and he has a lot of assets. I personally think he uses them in the wrong way. I think he needs someone to do his running for him, and I think that's why he worked so well with Welbeck yesterday, and that's why I believe he could work so well with Aubameyang. Because if someone else is doing the running for him, going into channels and whatnot, he can stick to the centre of the pitch and hopefully 5 to 10 yards higher up where he's more of a threat to their goal. As I said, yesterday is the Lacazette I want to see. So has my opinion of him changed? No. Am I happy to see? Would I prefer him to see how he played yesterday? Yes, and for me that would take him another level further in my head because he's much more of a threat. They're worried about him, whereas in other games I don't think teams have been particularly worried about him because they know he does what he does well, but he's not a goal threat. When he's on the halfway line, he's going to hold the ball up, he's going to keep the ball away from the defenders, and he's going to play a good pass. But they're not thinking, shit, he's going to score from here.
In your mind, and I know it's very hard to think about this, but oppositions, who would you're looking at an Arsenal team and you're sitting there and you're thinking, fuck, they've got this player, and this player. Who's the standout player that you think people are going, or other teams are going, fuck, we've got to watch him today, boys?
I think a lot of teams and players think stop Ozil, stop Arsenal when he's on the pitch, because when he's there, we try and play everything through him, whether we should or not. It's our default mode. If anything's not working, it's like, I'll give it to Mez and see if he can make anything happen. It's difficult because a lot of our players that are good are, like, as I've always said, I find Aubameyang wholly ineffective, but if he gets the ball in the area, he'll probably score. So you're not really... It's a difficult one because you're not worried about him. You're not going to get beat in the air. He's not going to... Do you know what I mean? He's not in a direct... He's never next to the centre-back giving... But he'll find space and score.
He's got to get the ball. They got to get the ball to him up front to do something.
Yeah. And then Lacazette's probably the other side of that coin where you think, fuck, I'm playing against a good player and he's going to do a lot of good work, but he's probably not going to score, or do you know what I mean? He's not going to be in that. He's not as much of a goal threat. I know it sounds stupid after he just scored 2 goals, but I'm looking at his whole time I've seen him play. Yep. So it's difficult. I think there's no one player where you think, like, fuck, like you look at Chelsea and as good as the rest of the players are around them, you think Hazard is the man to stop.
He's a
similar with Liverpool. Yeah, similar with Liverpool. You probably, based on last season, you'd go Salah is the one you have to look at. Where and you could argue De Bruyne for City, but they've got so many other players that are dangerous. But I think with us, they're all dangerous in separate ways, and I don't think there's one man where teams go, he is the one we have to stop.
Mm-hmm. Which is a good asset to have.
No, of course it is.
You dropped Salah from your fantasy team yet, Shwin?
I never had him in there. It was too expensive. It was like
dropped him
13.1 units.
Yeah, stupid.
Nowhere where he was last season for sure.
Yeah, I've changed that fucking team. Still done no good. Okay, Cosman Buta. How would you guys fit in Iwobi in the team, and whose detriment? Shwin?
He's earned his spot, that's for sure. I'm not quite sure whether he is going to fit in the team every week. I think, one of the things I said before the season was that I want to see different formations, different squads, depending on the opposition. And I think, to an extent, Emery's done that, especially in the last week where we played a 4-4-2, and then, of course, we played a back 5 against Qarabag. I think he's a very good squad player to have at the moment in his form, and he's probably the first name on, at first option from the bench if he's not starting. But, if you have a fully fit Aubameyang, and although we don't particularly prefer him on the left wing, but do you go for Iwobi or do you go for Aubameyang when he's fully fit? I think it's a good headache to have for the manager. If Iwobi starts, then in all probability it will be for Aubameyang.
Yeah, it's good. It's they're playing for their positions where they just I don't know. It's different. It is a different atmosphere this year, isn't it? Like there's the Iwobis and obviously the Aubameyangs, the Welbecks, Lacazette. They all seem to be. I don't want to say a bad thing of Arsene Wenger, but they seem to be playing for a position this year as opposed to last year. They just. I don't know. For me, it didn't seem that they had to do much, knowing that they were going to walk into the team a bit. Where this season they just seem to be getting the better. I think Emery's getting better out of the players.
I think you're absolutely right. I mean, the players have obviously benefited from this, this refresher around the club. I think David Hinter did a very good article on the Arsenal and the way that things are changing behind the scenes. In the week that led up to the game, and he started his article by saying that under Arsene, players could finish training and then they could go again. They could do that whole session of the day again. Under Emery, they just want to sleep, and they do sleep. It's almost as if that they're so zonked out by the end of it that they need that rest and they look forward to that rest. And for all of Arsene's qualities, we know that things went stale, whether it was psychologically, whether it was things happening on the training field that were too repetitive. I think the players have really benefited from this extra coaching, this extra analysis. And as you said at the top of the show, this homework. It's not just Emery doing his homework. I'm sure he's sending a lot of USB drives with the likes of Mustafi, with the likes of Granit Xhaka, and some of the players who are very pivotal in our build-up play and who can be prone to mistakes. So the whole atmosphere around the club has transformed in the last 2 to 3 months, which is, we shouldn't let that go unstated because it was such a monumental task for anyone to come in and to take this club by the scruff of its neck amidst the turmoil of Aaron Ramsey, amidst the turmoil of a changing and transforming top tier of the club, Emery's one of Emery's biggest advocates of the club, Gazidis, is no longer around, or is not going to be around soon. So for him to continue with that mentality of not being fazed by these things is the mark of a top professional. And I know things are going well. I know there's a lot of room for improvement. But as said a few weeks ago, if you're still winning while you're learning, there's not a better habit to have. And, I mean, to my surprise, we're in a very good state. And, may this go on for a long time, I feel.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Cosmo Buddha says, leaving the results aside, was the performance better, worse, or expected? Tony?
I think it's our best performance under Emery. So it certainly wasn't worse than expected. I don't know if you can say what an expected level of performance is. You can only judge it really on past and what you've done previously. So for me, it's the best we've played under him. Fulham let you play.
When we went into Fulham, they did. When you're walking into the stadium, you're thinking, "Oh, look." And I know you get on here and say 10-0, but in your mind, were you going, "Oh, geez, I'd be happy with a 2-1 win here today"?
I don't really think in scorelines, which is why I always say 10-0. Because for me, I think in win, lose or draw. Because in the long run, I think the scorelines wholly irrelevant. I've seen us play excellent and win 1-0, and I've seen us play poor and win 4-0. I'm not talking this season. I just mean overall. So I go in there thinking we have to beat this side. I don't think we have to beat them 3-0 or whatever, because look at the Qarabag game the other day. We wasn't brilliant and they ran out of steam the other day and we ended up winning 3-0, but it wasn't a 3-0 game, as Schwinn said earlier. There wasn't as much of that as a gap between the two sides. And I would rather a 1-0 where we'd completely dominated, we'd not given them a chance, and we looked excellent, over a 3-0 where we were shaky as fuck and our keeper was arguably man of the match. So that's what I mean. I don't overly think in scorelines, but as I said, I walked into the ground thinking we have to be beating a team like Fulham. Nothing could get no disrespect to Fulham, but if you want to do anything in the league, even top four, you have to be winning at grounds like that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Cosman Buddha says, Schwinn, do you think that actually not having Ozil on the pitch helped us today? That's the wrong bloke. Sorry, Cosman.
Not really. I mean, I've said on this podcast before that causation is not the same as correlation. And every now and then, we look past that. It's certainly a fact that Mesut Ozil was not involved and that we won 5-1. Would you say that those are both related? I don't know. Not from me. He missed out. Fair play, and we went on to win in a comprehensive manner. Only time will tell whether there's a certain correlation between these two that evolve into causation. But again, it's a testament to the squad and the way the squad has reacted and how we can do without the likes of Mesut Ozil, who, as Tony said earlier, we look for in certain games, especially when we're in a deadlock and we cannot find answers. So it's good to know that even when some of our best players are missing, whether it's Aubameyang or Mesut Ozil, we can cope with the pressure and deliver, and that's what we're here for. I couldn't care less if Mesut Ozil is not involved if you're still winning games.
I'll just add, even though we won 5-1, I guarantee you if Ozil was playing, he still would have went missing.
Not interested. I'm not interested.
You must shake your head. Fuck this cunt. Oh, I'm only fucking with you, brother. Okay, AFC. I don't know what this cunt's name is. He got up me the other day about it, and I fucking don't know what his name is. What is it?
Coyote. AFC Coyote.
That's not fucking how you spell Coyote.
How else do you spell it?
Fucking not like that. Okay, AFC Coyote. So Schwinn says to me. I like my version, Quickside. For Tony, assuming he was at the game, what was the Craven Cottage experience like? I've heard it's not like most stadiums. Also, what are your guys' favourite stadiums? Doesn't matter if you've been there or not.
It is a very weird ground. It's like so middle class. It's unbelievable. It's in the middle of a beautiful park. You can see the Thames from the stand. See people rowing their boats along the River Thames as you're watching the game, which is just fucking weird. Because of, I'm not joking.
What do you mean rowing their fucking boats?
The ground's
exactly what he says. That's what he
the ground's not filled in the corners, so you can literally just see people rowing along the Thames while you watch. So yeah, I mean, it's weird. I think because of how expensive like land and property is, that the football grounds tend to get built in the shittest areas where land is obviously cheaper. Yep. I don't know how long Craven Cottage has been there for, but I'd imagine a long time, and that's how they've got such a beautiful, picturesque piece of land. But it is weird. What I would say is the away support was unbelievable again yesterday. Very loud, very so behind the team.
That's good.
It was very good. But yeah, the ground is it's an experience. I think I actually feel sorry for people who have been there and not to any other away games, because if they think that's what football's like, they're in for a shock at some point. Like you half feel like if you go for a half-time piss and a pint, you end up with a fucking latte and fucking caviar or something. It's so weird. In terms of best away ground,
well, no, he says favourite stadium doesn't matter if you've been there or not.
Yeah. Oh, favourite. My favourite away ground. One I haven't been to. I would love to go to Dortmund when they're playing. I've been there, but when they're playing a league game, because their stand is slightly their main stand is slightly restricted in Europe, and it's never as impressive as it looks in the league game. I think is it the yellow wall they call it. Schwinn will know better than me, but that always looks very impressive, and it's something I'd like to do. But I'd actually like to do it on the Dortmund side of things. I'd want to be in there. Obviously not against it. Yeah. But in England, I'd say probably the most impressive ground to go to is Old Trafford, in all honesty.
Yeah, really? Okay.
It's just massive. It's so big.
What's the bridge like?
It's just another football ground. It's a lot like Highbury, I guess. Quite tight.
It's an old stadium.
Yeah. I mean, Goodison Park's probably the oldest in the league. I don't know about in terms of date, but it's definitely the most dated, and that's why they're looking at a new ground. And it does have a different and unique and quite a nice feel about it, because modern day football grounds are all the same. Like you go to Leicester, Southampton, Derby, Middlesbrough, Sunderland to an extent, and they're all the same ground with different colour seats. Yeah. And to be fair, the Emirates is the same ground with another tier plonked on top. And Wembley's the same ground with another tier plonked on top of that. Their grounds are all so similar. So it is nice when you get out to these old grounds, because there's not many of them anymore, and they are still like Everton. It feels like the ground's going to fall down if you cheer too hard. But it is nice to have something a bit different.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Look, I would love to get to Camp Nou, Barcelona's ground.
Most overrated ground in football.
Is it really? Wow. Okay.
One side is really nice, and that's what they show on TV. They showed a really nice, modern-looking entrance. You walk 10 yards away from it, and you're essentially in a building site.
Oh, okay. Well, okay. Because that was on my bucket list, as well as I'd like to go to Dortmund as well. I reckon that'd be a really good experience. What about you, Schwinn?
I have a couple. I mean, of course, the Westfalenstadion, which is the Dortmund Stadium, is an incredible place to be. It's probably the loudest stadium I've been in ever. And I was there for the Gelsenkirchen derby, which is Schalke versus Dortmund, which, of course, has a lot more riding on the day. But the second one is a bit of a different one, a strange one, which was the Rose Bowl, which is in Pasadena, California. It's perhaps the biggest stadium in America, I think, or maybe the Big House is the biggest stadium in America, which is in Michigan. But it holds 90,000 people, and it also hosted the 1994 World Cup final, for those looking for a reference. And the way it's designed, it holds a lot of noise. It's sort of designed like the Nou Camp, not quite, but it's got a lovely view of the ground, and it's just one of the more legendary and iconic stadiums in America. And I've seen America versus the Mexican national team there, which was an amazing experience.
Just before you start again, there's another thing on Fulham which I forgot to say is they have a neutral end, and I think it's the only. I'm pretty 99% certain it's the only ground in the Premier League with a neutral end. So you have the Arsenal section, and then obviously most of the ground's Fulham, and there's a section where it's just pretty much anyone, and it always does end up just being Fulham or Arsenal fans. But it's just weird, as I said, it's unusual having a neutral section.
Mm-hmm. I was Tony, like you see that our WhatsApp group, and you see our fucking Schwinn round here. He travels all over the place, and he come up with a fucking ground in America. I'm sitting there and I'm waiting for him to come up with these really great grounds, and what's he throw at us? A ground in America. Fuck.
Well, as you're saying that, one sorry, a bit left field.
You gotta be there.
I'm saying this one because I know Schwinn's been there. The weirdest ground I've ever been to is Monaco, because it's on top of offices, and you go up about loads of flight of stairs, and then you actually walk down onto the pitch because it's on the roof of an office, and the tunnel isn't a tunnel as such, it's stairs in the floor going down, and the changing rooms are underneath the pitch.
That's the one I thought he would have mentioned. I thought, because I remember him, he was there only not long ago, so I thought he might
it's a shithole of a football ground, but it's so weird.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, the Stade Louis there is not special at all. Their training facility, although, which is in La Tourbi, is carved out of a mountain and overlooks the Mediterranean, so that's a special place to be. But the stadium itself is...
You went in Champions League final last year. Where was it again?
That was in Kiev.
What was that like?
Not bad. I mean, an old stadium. Personally, I like the Belgrade Stadium more in terms of the old ones. Even the Napoli Stadium, which is, I think, the São Paulo. Again, if you're looking towards the more old and gladiatorial stadiums, that's a beautiful one. And Naples, goes wild on football days. But the one in Kiev wasn't. They do, yeah, which is not necessarily something I prefer. I like the pitch, and that's about it. But I think it was maybe an Olympic stadium at some point, which is probably why they have one. But it's massive. Again, it's probably the size of Old Trafford, if I had to guess. 59, 60,000 people. Is that what Old Trafford is?
Old Trafford's like 78, 75, 78.
So maybe not as big, but it gets loud on game days, and again, a good place to visit. Not Naples, but the stadium.
Yeah, okay, cool. Ever been? What's Bayern's stadium? Allianz, isn't it?
Allianz, yeah. I was at the Allianz earlier this year. Again, decent stadium, modern. I like the Wanda more, which is newer. Of course, I was there for the Atletico game, the second leg of it that we played. So it's newer, so you get that. But I like a stadium with a bit more history and a bit more culture. As the older stadiums get, you see things written down on seats, and you can sense and smell a lot of the tradition and a lot of the booze and whatnot. In Italy, you can smell cigarettes, and I feel that adds a bit more to your match day experience than just new seats and stewards telling you to sit down all the time.
Yeah, I see people talking about Newcastle, Tony. They say it's one that you've got to go and have a look at.
That's interesting as an away fan. You're so high up, it's ridiculous. You can see over the next stand, so you can pretty much see the whole of Newcastle. In the same way you can see the Thames at Fulham, you see the whole of Newcastle, which isn't quite as glamorous. You are there. To be fair, there where it is such a one club city or town, whatever it is.
Yep.
Their support when they're on top is very good and very, very loud. I mean, they've obviously got so many problems with their owners and the way they're playing at the moment. It was a bit shit when we was there a couple of weeks ago, but that ground when it's rocking is a sight. It is something obviously the problem is you can't guarantee it. You can't guarantee it's going to be rocking. They're going to be on top. But when it is, they're the type, they cheer they'll cheer a goal kick. I remember I was watching it on TV. They beat Man United 1-0 at home last year, and they got a goal kick in. They were hanging on, and they got a goal kick a couple of minutes ago. And even through the TV, the noise they produced, and you're just like, fucking hell, it's a goal kick. But as I said, the issue is you can't guarantee it's going to be rocking. If you could, that would be up there with a ground I'd recommend anyone to go and see.
Yeah, okay. Okay, boys. MAA Gunner, so he's got a couple of questions for us. Does playing actual wingers mean that we can only play one of Aubameyang and Lacazette, or one of Ozil and Mkhitaryan, Tony?
No, with Laka and Aubameyang, because you couldn't go 4-4-2 like we did yesterday and play, but play Aubameyang in where Welbeck played.
Yep.
But yes, with Ozil and Mickey. And to be honest, I'd probably say you can't really play either of them, because you're not going to play them in the middle because it leaves you too isolated. So you've got to play one of them out on the right. And I mean, Mickey just refuses to defend. He just flat out refuses. It's painful to watch when a game's tight. It was okay yesterday because the game was so open and Sessegnon did absolutely nothing. But he refuses to defend. Ozil tries, but he's not the best at it. And then he's not very quick. He's not going to beat a man out wide. He's going to come inside. So I think 4-4-2 probably suits Laka and Aubameyang better, but I don't really know. I wouldn't know who to say would play on the right.
Yeah, it's a hard one, isn't it?
4-4-2 with Aubameyang and Laka up top and Iwobi and Welbeck on the wings. Of course, it takes away a lot of the creative edge.
Iwobi's the only option there, isn't he? Really?
Well, Iwobi on the left and Welbeck on the right. So you take Mickey and Ozil both out. Yeah. Just go for raw running power and pace, balls over the top. It could be used. I mean, again, if the situation calls for it, I don't think it's necessarily one that should be discarded or will be discarded, because if you need outlets and a multitude of those, then that could be a good option.
Okay. So do you fancy... here we go, both you boys. I'll get your opinions here. Do you fancy our chances against Liverpool, considering how poor they've been recently? I've only watched one or two Liverpool games. So, Schwinn?
That's a tough question. I mean, a lot changes in the next 3-4 weeks. Of course, there's not a whole lot of games, in the build-up to Liverpool. But yesterday, I don't know if you guys caught the game. I know, Tez, you didn't. But against City, it was a weird game to watch. There was a lot of intensity. But for both teams, it lacked something in the final third, which is surprising, because there's so much talent in those teams. But I found the game to be not entertaining as such. Maybe that was just me, or I was more excited about our result. But in terms of our chances, hell yes, I'm looking forward to the game. I think it's going to be a real test. I don't think you can come out that game very distraught, because if you win, then that's massive, of course. And if you lose, or if you don't get a draw at least, then you can expect that, since on paper they're definitely better than us. But I think it's going to be a good and interesting test for Emery and how he lines up and how he changes things during the game. So I do fancy our chances, because I think Emery is a bit more tactically astute than Jurgen Klopp. Liverpool outweighs us in terms of talent and in terms of their intensity. But if we show up that day, and if we can sustain some of our game for the first 45, 50 minutes, then we could as well come out of the game with a result. And let's not forget, it's at the Emirates, I think, which plays into our favor as well. So I'm definitely looking forward to that game. I think it's going to be a big landmark in terms of where our season might head from there.
What about you, Tony? Fancy our chances?
It's like, I'm going to do a Schwinn and sit on the fence. It's very difficult to say, because look, there's still two, I think, Palace and Leicester before that, and so you never know about momentum. And I just wanted to pick up on the point saying Liverpool playing poor of recent. I mean, they drew twice with Chelsea, who, let's be honest, beat us, and then lost to Napoli, who are a good side. Now, I don't think they were poor yesterday. I think Schwinn touched on it. I think the teams just cancelled each other out, and it was a better point for City than it was for Liverpool. So they didn't overcommit and leave the spaces that Liverpool usually play in. If you're asking me right now, I would take a draw, being honest. But we'll see when it comes to it. As I said, 2 weeks or whatever it is, it's the 3rd of November, the game. So basically a month away. It's a long time in football.
Yeah, it is. I'm just looking through. So we got Leicester
and Palace away.
We got Sporting, Europa League, Palace. We got Blackpool, and then Liverpool. So yeah, anything can happen.
Oh shit! I got to buy my Blackpool ticket. Cheers.
Okay. Island Boy Guna, would you guys ever do a podcast drunk?
Tez is.
I personally wouldn't do one drunk, because I'm always fucking hungover, so I'd go to Schwinn and Tony. Schwinn?
Not in the slightest. I mean, slurry speech becomes a real thing, and if anyone's ever heard us, record, then you got to know that it takes 3 to 4 attempts to get Tess going, including today. So I'd rather keep us away from the drinky drink.
It's a struggle today, don't ask me. I haven't done that for a while, actually, but I've been off the grog for a while, so 3-day bender doesn't help you. Tony?
I mean, I feel like I talk quite a lot of nonsense as it is, so being drunk probably wouldn't make much difference. I'm also the worst kind of drunk who acts completely the same and then is sick when I get home. So you probably wouldn't know unless I end up throwing up, which no one really wants to hear.
Fair enough. I just had visual pictures of bloody Schwinn.
What's that supposed to be?
No, I just...
You keep your fantasies to yourself, mate.
It was when we jumped on the Skype and we thought it was Schwinn having a chunder in the background that day.
God.
Anyway. Okay. Utkash? Is that how we say that? Utkash?
Utkarsh. Yeah, there you go.
Utkash Pramabad.
There's no end there.
I tried. Okay. What can the Adidas deal? Yeah. Okay. I forgot about this. So thanks for reminding us, buddy. What can the Adidas deal mean for our club and our transfer budgets? Does it impact players like Ozil who have a long-standing partnership with Adidas? Tony?
So I believe it's 65 million guarantee, and then up to 5 million in bonuses, depending on trophies or success. I don't know what they label as success. I'm assuming trophies. So it'll be a huge upturn in the deal. So there'll be more money there to spend, hopefully. In terms of the players, it's very unusual that sponsors get involved with players. The only time it does happen, and it's not as common as the press would have you think, is, say, for example, Barcelona are made by Nike, but obviously Messi is an Adidas player. And Adidas don't really like that they're paying so much to someone who's going to be wearing a Nike kit every week regardless. So if he was to leave and the choices were between another team sponsored by Nike or an Adidas team, that Adidas might give additional support to the club in terms of help them with the transfer fee in order to get him in an Adidas shirt every week. Because the way it is, they're paying Messi all this money and he's still advertising Nike every week. And Nike can still have a picture of Messi wearing Nike, because when they're doing the Barcelona photo shoots, it's all Nike stuff. So that's the only time it happens. It's very, very rare. But, I mean, it does happen. It probably won't help us, but it potentially could.
Okay. Hakon Larson, here we go. He's got
just before you proceed, Taz, I had a couple of questions. Do you think, Tony, that Adidas coming on board could somehow ease contract negotiations, if there have to be any, with Aaron Ramsey, since he's also an Adidas player?
Again, it's if they want to give support. I don't know if they would, and if Chelsea's an option, which, I mean, I think the bookies have Chelsea and Liverpool as these the two favourites for him to go to should he leave Arsenal. Chelsea are obviously an Adidas club anyway, so there'll be no support offered there. I doubt it would have an influence, to be honest, because it still then leads to, if we're paying him over what we think he's worth, but Adidas are paying it, okay, it's not coming out of Arsenal's pocket, but then other players would say, well, he's on $250 a week. I don't care who's paying it. I think I'm better than him, blah, blah, blah. Or even when, and it's not to guarantee that the next time, say Aubameyang, who I believe is Adidas, or is he Nike? He's Nike, isn't he? But someone else, and Adidas might not offer that support, but they think, I don't care, I'm better than Ramsey. Like, I value myself higher than Ramsey, so if he's on $250, I don't really care who's paying it, but I want more than that. And then it leaves the club in trouble. So I don't think it would help things or change it. I don't think it changes anything.
Mm-hmm. And the second one is, you know how we have in the Premier League a 7 million wage cap year on year, right? Unless you can bring on additional sponsors. Is the kit sponsor also something that we can use towards that extended wage, or that's only for supplementary sponsorships like sleeves and your other corporate sponsors?
I am completely not sure on that. Every time this is one of the things I literally know next to nothing about, and every time this issue comes up, I always tweet out and see if there's anyone that can sort of give us a helping hand or give us a hint, because I really don't know. So that's probably something. Tweet it out and see if anyone on any of our followers actually know. You'll get a lot of people like me and you who put their 2 cents in but don't actually know for a fact. I would imagine it does count, but I don't know.
Something for us to maybe ask our listeners to chime in with if they have any knowledge or any thoughts on.
Yep, and you can do that at @clockend_talk on Twitter. Hack on Larson, Emery got the sub spot on again, in my opinion. Bring on the fresh runners when the opposition was tired. That must be kind of the plan, right? Our fitness level in general is good. We keep going even when we have scored 4 goals. Absolutely love it. But he goes on and says, what do you guys make of the Guendouzi came on, Tuera was moved to the right? Something to talk about, or was it more free roaming because we had many midfielders on the field? Could see Tuera was tired, so we got more energy in the middle. We'll go with you, Schwinn.
I think it was a bit to do with just moving things around. I think adding Guendouzi was more about adding a bit more control and fresh legs in midfield, and it just so happened that Torreira was the only one who could play on the right. But I think that speaks a lot about Lucas Torreira. I think he ran his socks off in the first 70, 80 minutes, and when he was deployed, he kept going. He just does not stop. And I think it was late on in the game when he made a run, and the goalkeeper got to the ball just before he did, and he just lay flat on the ground for a couple of seconds to catch his breath. I do want to touch upon Guendouzi here, because when Emery looks towards his bench and he wants to shore up things in midfield, granted, Guendouzi was probably the only option, but to have that sort of trust in a 19-year-old that he will be fine and will be able to control things, which is what he did, is a massive testament to Guendouzi. I think that kid has a very, very bright future. But he came into the game, grabbed the tempo from the very onset, pinged some good passes here and there. I think he found Hector Bellerin a couple of times behind their back line, and just had no problem adjusting to the game. It's the mark of a very, very classy player, and I am over the moon with that signing, I'll be honest.
Okay. He goes on. I'm just reading through, so I'll start up here. So he's Hack on Larson. Emery said earlier that he wanted more possession. I can see that we can try to move faster up the field and attack more. We rarely see us in control of the ball from the start of the game. It was because of the high-risk progressive play, or have we a problem with keeping the ball, Tony?
It's hard to say. I think Emery, and it's something I criticised early on, I think he's adapted very well. He wanted to play out from the back in more of a Spanish style, where it's a slower tempo and they let your keeper give it to your centre-backs and play out that way. And he's found that we was just under pressure pretty much all the time. And the same with the high press. He started off against City and Chelsea completely gung-ho, the high press, and teams were getting in behind us for fun. And he abandoned that quite early. And I don't know, he's not abandoned playing out from the back, but before it was like, you have to play out from the back. I don't care if you're marked, play out from the back. And that's literally what it was like for the first few weeks of the season. It was kamikaze. But now I feel like he said, if it's on, play out from the back. We want to keep the ball. But if not, don't worry about it. Like, look for it. That is your first option. But don't force it. And I feel earlier on in the season we were forcing it. All fairness to him, I think he's adapted very well. I think it has slightly changed, but I think it's adaptation from him.
But just on what you were saying there, so, and I don't want to take anything away from Cech here, because I think he's been really great so far this season. It's the shame that he's been injured. But Leno's been given his chance. I didn't catch the game yesterday, but by the sounds of it, there was some great goals from playing out of the back. Was that due to Leno?
No, I mean, I think the only one from the played out from the back really was the Ramsey goal, but that was nothing to do with the keeper. Hector won the ball in our area, and it started in our own area, but it was nothing to do with the keeper.
Okay, right, no worries. So it wouldn't have mattered with Checo anyway.
No, it wouldn't have mattered if I was in goal. The keeper didn't touch the ball.
Yep, cool. Okay.
If anything, I think we conceded. The goal we conceded was from a goal kick, wasn't it?
I'm not sure. I know Nacho ran it wide and then had his shocker of a clearance, but I don't know where it came from. I can't remember.
Yeah, I don't remember quite clearly myself, but I feel that it was started from the back and Nacho got it and of course gave it away. So if anything, it was one that led to our demise, if you want to call it that.
As long as it wasn't Granit Xhaka, I'm okay.
Nope, wasn't him.
It's usually fucking is, that's all. But Twitter's been very quiet on him, so...
Yeah, which is good. But to be fair, Leno made a couple of really good saves. So I think he's come in with a lot of confidence and been doing just fine. I don't think any of us can really have complaints with him. Even midweek when he played against Karabakh, he was on the spot. I don't think he made any mistakes as such. Of course, when you're kicking the ball long every now and then, you'll lose possession or something to the tune of that. But in terms of what he's there for, stopping goals from going in, he's been doing just fine.
Yeah, cool. Okay, was that second Aubameyang goal, Hakon Larsen this is, was that second Aubameyang goal a perfect example of what Emery wants the players to do? Tappy from behind and 2-3 passes to break the lines, and our striker is through. Hope we can do that when the opposition is not that tired. They sort of given up. Who wants to tackle that, Schwinn, Tony?
I mean, Tony spoke about this earlier, and he said, it's one of those goals that goes in late into the game when you're, up by 2 or 3 goals, and it's hard to disagree with that. In terms of the perfect example, look, when we score, we'll take it, and I don't know if there's a perfect way to score or not. I'm just glad that we are finding different ways of scoring. If you look at all the 5 goals we scored yesterday, other than that carbon copy of Lacazette and Aubameyang's goal, which was symmetrical in nature, I think all goals are very different, and it involves different players, different patterns, and that's what I like to see. And under Arsene, we looked for the perfect goal where we could walk it in sometimes. I'm just glad that we're looking for different routes, more direct routes in certain cases, and using our players to the best of their abilities. And I think a shout out has to go here to Danny Welbeck and Alex Iwobi, who have brought in a different and dynamic edge, which gives the manager extra options, whether you want to start with them or bring them from the bench. It's something for the opposition to think about, as you asked earlier in this podcast, as what does the opposition think? It's very difficult to put their finger on a certain thing because the team is so diverse and dynamic at the moment that we are able to find different ways of scoring. And I think that's the perfect thing that the Arsenal are currently exhibiting.
Okay. Original Brads, do we think we should give Emery big credit to the improvement of Iwobi under Wenger? He looked lost and was getting worse. He's now playing like the winger we need. By the way, I think we should definitely do whatever it takes to keep Ramsey. There's nobody at the club that can do what he does. He started the goal from our own half and finished to keep and build the mid around him. Ozil under Emery could be more disciplined. CDM. Tony?
Look, you have to. Yeah, I mean, you have to give Emery credit for. Well, you have to give someone credit for Iwobi, and you go with Emery because that's what's changed. But you also have to give Alex Iwobi credit because he's improved. So whether that's obviously down to whatever Emery's told him to do or how Emery's training with him, but then also the capacity to learn is within himself. So I'm going to give credit to both of them for that. In terms of Ramsey, look, for me, he has to stay. I think people are kidding themselves. It's always the way with Arsenal fans. Everyone's the world's greatest player, and they go over, in my opinion, we go over the top about how good the player is, and everyone's world class. And then when they're going to leave, they're shit. We didn't really need them, and all they really done was score 2 winners in an FA Cup final. We big them up, but we also we break them down the most when It's not what it. I don't think he's world class. I also don't think he's useless, but I think he is a very important player, and I think we should be keeping him. I can't see him playing as one of the two in the middle though. I know he's played there before, but it does waste a lot of his assets, and it's quite clear that Emery wants two that pretty much sit behind the ball at all times, or 99% of the time. And no matter if you limit Ramsey to doing that, you really waste what Aaron Ramsey's good at. So I can't really see him ever being involved in that too. I think, but it's going to be Xhaka and Torreira, and if one of them's injured, it'll be Guendouzi, who also sits behind the ball, and then to an extent, El Neni sits behind the ball.
You know, if you had asked me, last year, start of last year, would we get rid of Oxlade-Chamberlain, Walcott, Jack, and Ramsey in 3 windows? I would have said you kid. I just wouldn't. I wouldn't have picked it. It's been 3 windows, isn't it?
And obviously Ramsey's still there, but
and Sanchez as well. Yeah, true.
And even if you're going on the British, Gibbo as well,
and Gibbo,
yeah. I just never would have picked it. Unbelievable. Okay, just going up. Utkarsh, he's got a couple more. Emery confirmed that we played a proper 4-4-2 when both Laka and Aubameyang were on the pitch. Which players would you suggest playing in that formation? Do you think it is a good formation when we go to during certain... Yeah, we type of touched on this, boys, didn't we? So he's just saying, like, as I said earlier to you, Tony, is it a 4-4-2 all the time or just on certain games? So you type of said, like most certain games. You agreed, Schwinn?
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, so 4-4-2. Denny, he just goes on. Today's the first game we played. Clearly 4-4-2 with Denny and Lacazette first, and then Laka with Aubameyang. Then Aaron is like a 10 player, but he can play near the attack, and he can score or do an assist like today. He also mentioned that Lucas played on the right. I don't know what he's talking about there. Yeah.
I think he's just providing the quote there.
Oh, okay, right, okay. Okay, let's go up. Ireland Boy Guna on the Europa League game. Tez said 3-0 and Smith Rowe to score. Both was right. Schwins, what are you laughing at? Am I reading that wrong?
As per usual.
And that's it, boys. That's all the questions. So, yeah, he's just that was all of them. I think I've got them all, haven't I? Yep, got them all. And
there's one more in the Skype chat that Maddie just sent, and I'll throw that to the both of you. Since we just spoke about Ramsey, Maddie asks, "What is your take on Ramsey's celebration?"
I didn't see it. What was it?
Tony?
I don't know. It's a tough one because I wondered at the time, like, is there anything behind that? But then, and he sort of kind of ran around the goal doing it, and then he jumped up in the air and celebrated with everyone else as normal. It's a weird one. To be honest, I think there probably is something in it, but when you win 5-1 and whatnot, people don't pick up on these things. I think it's a very good question, and I think it's something that had the game not been had it not been our best performance of the season, had it not been our biggest win of the season, had the game not been so free flowing and whatnot, it's something that people would have picked up on more. We don't want to bring negativity into this performance, but I think there probably is something in it because I don't think we've ever seen him do something similar before. Actually, I've just said that. I think I have. I don't know why it's in my head that he scored a really good goal somewhere before and he done something similar. So it could be played off as do you know what I mean? What more can you say, sort of thing, when you score a goal like that?
Yeah. What you gonna do about that? Yeah.
What did he do, Tom?
He just kind of he had his hands out like in a don't know sort of position. Like
it was like a shruggy, you know.
like shruggy arms out by his side, like what?
Yeah, okay.
Like, and it could be read as like I don't know what's going on or what's going on sort of. That's the best way. The posers maybe what's going on.
Okay.
But as I said, I think I've seen him do that before. I may be wrong, and I could be talking absolute bullshit. But I think I've seen him do that before after scoring a really good goal, and it could be seen as like, go on, what can you do? What can you do about that?
Could be something in it. Could be not too.
Yeah, as I said at the time, I mean, between jumping up and down in amazement at the goal I'd just seen, I thought at the time, like, that's going to catch some headlines.
Did we touch on the last podcast about his agent? Or we think it's the agent, must be. Basically saying that the deal's off, no deal, they pulled out. Did we mention that before?
Well, yeah, I mean, we spoke about, obviously, that them saying that it's pulled out. I don't know if we spoke about the deleted tweet since, where he's basically said it looks like it's over.
Yeah, that's what I meant. It was the deleted tweet, yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that was after we recorded. So the agent tweeted and then very quickly deleted, and he basically said like, "There's no way back from here."
Crazy.
I mean, I'm paraphrasing. So read it. Everyone read it yourself. There's pictures all over the internet, and you can kind of. I tweeted about it at the time as well, and you can make your own take on it. But I read it as his agent was saying like, it was done. Like they've made their decision, and there's nothing we can do about it.
Where do you, just off the cuff, and I know I put you on the spot here, where do you see him fitting in?
What other clubs?
Like a Chelsea, a Liverpool, or...
Well, I mean, I think Chelsea and Liverpool are the front runners, as I said earlier, according to the bookies, and I could see him working at either club. He would fit in straight into their system. I mean, Barkley's getting a lot of minutes at Chelsea, and Ramsey streets above him. And you look at Liverpool, and they work well as a unit, but you go Milner, Henderson, Wijnaldum, like started yesterday. I would have him over all three of them. Then there's Ox, and for me, Ramsey's a lot more consistent. I know Ox is also out for another 6 to 8 months. I mean, for me, I think the two clubs that have been heavily linked with him would be good fits for him.
Yeah, okay. Man United?
Yeah. But, I mean, look, you've got to look at United. It depends who the manager is, but everything they do seems to be to unlock Pogba. For me, Ramsey doesn't do that. But then you could say they signed Matic, Fred, Alexis, and whoever else to unlock Pogba, and they've not done it either. But I don't think you can even try and convince yourself if we sign Ramsey to unlock Pogba. I'm not. That's not suggesting he's a bad player. And if I was Man United, I'd want to sign Ramsey. But if they're going to stick with their philosophy of everything they do is to unlock Pogba, then I don't think Ramsey's that guy.
I'm just thinking abroad. I don't know if he'd fit in at Juventus.
No, he's the only one. Look, I mean, Juventus love a free signing, and they're probably the only ones to afford him. But we don't even know if they can afford him. You got to think they're paying Ronaldo stupid money. I know it's heavily funded elsewhere, but they're not going to be able to splash big on wages for a while. You wouldn't think.
Real Madrid.
I mean, the one that I think's gone slightly under the radar, and I don't know if they would sign him, but I would say if you're comparing Ramsey in world football terms, probably one of the closest players you compare him to is probably Vidal. And Bayern obviously lost him in the summer, and they've had a dog shit start to the season. So I don't want to say panic buy, but you never know if they think, well, that's what we're missing, that Vidal type of player. And Ramsey's not an exact replacement. He's not as aggressive, but he's available. So I don't know. But I mean, for me, I think Chelsea and Liverpool are probably the two most obvious options.
Yeah, okay.
I think City might be an option as well. I mean, with David Silva getting up there in age, and I'm not trying to say that he's dropped in form or quality, but clubs like that with those deep pockets often look for off options much before they need them. And if they can give Aaron Ramsey 250,000 a week, then I'm not sure if Aaron's going to just discard that offer for not being able to start. It might be lucrative enough for him to be tempted by it.
With no disrespect meant to Aaron Ramsey at all, I don't think he's a good enough footballer for Man City. As in, touch and move and passing. You look, every one of their players, you can zip a ball into them in that midfield. You got De Bruyne, Silva, and then you go wide, and obviously it's a bit different. Even Gundogan's a tidy player, and for them, Ramsey isn't tidy enough.
I think that's completely fair. I just feel in terms of a business move, because he might be available on a free or on a low budget, if or a low fee in January, it might be something that they might just give a go if possible. I can understand the quality debate, and I think that's completely fair. But in terms of business move, I think it might have something to it, especially if we're looking to offload him in January, because it might be something they might try and give a go. Because I do think they lack a bit of something in midfield with De Bruyne out, and as I said, with Silva aging, there might be something in it for them to be tempted by. I don't know. It's just a hunch.
Oh yeah, boys. We're gonna get a couple of weeks break, but do you want to do a quick bold prediction for the Leicester City game, because we're going to be recording after the Leicester City game, aren't we?
I don't know. We can do a preview of that. It's a couple of weeks away. Bold prediction: someone could be out injured by then and whatnot. And let's face it, we get bored and we've got nothing to do for a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And it's a Monday game, so we could record the day before and do bold predictions then and whatnot.
Yep, we'll do that. Okay, we'll record before the Leicester game. We'll bring you the preview, because we'll be bored as shit and looking for something to do then. Okay, boys, it's been a pleasure. Haven't done a 3-hour podcast, which is good. And sorry about our live callers, but we will get back in the routine again. But I just didn't feel like it tonight. To be honest, I was just fucking completely like I said to the boys, let's just get this straight through. So thank you for downloading. Thank you for listening. Thank you for everything, all the support and everything. Oh, just quickly before I go, Craig, he's looks after the Clock End Talk blog. We're looking for some writers as well. So if you feel that you can, write an article here and there and help out, you can contact myself at Goonatez. Schwinn, you're available as well. So at AFC Schwinn. Even Tony, Clockend_talk, and yeah, just we'll put you in touch with Craig and get you on the blog and whatnot. And article a week if you want to, have your say, because he needs some people to get involved with that. So yeah,
just to add to that, even things like player ratings, you don't have to come up with an inventive article every week and speak about something different. But even if you could do the player ratings for Europa League games or league games or anything around that. It doesn't. I know we get some people message us saying, "Oh, I want to, but I have no fresh ideas and stuff." But you don't have to be, you don't have to be out there and have a crazy opinion to do it. It's just, as I said, even the not minor things, because it's probably our most read things are player ratings. Yeah. Or just anything you contribute would be brilliant.
Yeah, player ratings, even previews, or just anything to help out and get involved. It's there, so might as well use the platform. And Craig does have his ratings up, and I didn't get them up in front of me, so I won't go through them all, but you can find them. What's that website? Clockend. clockendtalk.blogspot.com. I think that's it.
There you go.
Okay, righto, guys, let's get the fuck out of here. Thank you, everybody, for listening and downloading, and we'll speak to you all before the Leicester game. Thanks, boys.
Cheers.
See yous.